So, welcome, Gerald and Arooj, for this
Thank you.
EdTalks episode 4, where we'll be talking about empowering teacher trainers. So, let's just have a quick introduction from both of you. So, tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Hi, I'm Gerald, and I have been a teacher trainer for 30 years last year. So I worked mainly in CELTA courses during that time, and I've taken on other projects. I've always worked with adults. So if you think my ideas are maybe a little bit alien, then it's only because I am gearing my experience towards, or I'm relating to adult learning, adult trainees.
What
Hi, this is
about you?
Arooj Fatima Raza. I've been associated with the education field for the past 19 years. Started off my journey as a teacher myself, and later on, moving up the ladder. Now I'm heading one of the school in Pakistan. I'm also working as a teacher trainer. I do not only train teachers. For language, I also train teachers on different pedagogical skills for early years, for primary years, and I also provide subject-specific training wherever it's needed.
Thank you so much. So, to start off, because you guys have such a wide experience of teacher trainings, what do you think, when we talk about teacher trainers, what do you believe is the role of teacher trainers, first of all? What do you see a teacher trainer as?
I don't want to always assume I'm the first one to answer, but I think that teachers are as a group of people, are a lot of individuals with different experiences of life in the classroom. And I think when we come into teacher training, we need to do so with a very open mind and not limit the sort of variety of possibilities, methods, and so on to our own experience. I think we have to be very open to the experience of others. Let's face it, there are so many ways we can make teaching enjoyable and valuable.
I
What?
totally second that. And another trait I think so a teacher trainer needs to have, that teacher trainer must be a lifelong learner himself or herself. That's a must. That's the only thing, and a reflective practitioner, because this is the only way you can actually, empower other teachers to become lifelong learners as well as reflective practitioners throughout their life.
Absolutely. Absolutely agree.
Right. So when we talk about teacher trainers and you talked about lifelong learning, what kind of challenges do you think people normally face when they're teacher trainers?
When it comes to lifelong learning, there are like multiple challenges that teacher trainers and teachers, both, they're facing. It's
Right.
first of all that what kind of courses that are available, that are in your access, and if there are good courses that are in your access and there possibility for you to take them, they're either very expensive or they're not available. If I talk about Pakistani context, they're not available in Pakistan. Another challenge that we face being a teacher trainer, that finances. If you're looking at a very, very good courses, they're very expensive. So it's very hard to, get hold of them as well. And another challenge that we face is the time constraint.
Right.
Being very busy educators, we know we are juggling with multiple roles. Being, in my case, I'm a mother as well, and then I'm school administrator, and then, I'm learning myself too when I'm training teachers. So they're like different tasks I'm juggling with. So it's very difficult for me to get time in hand to actually pursue some of the courses.
Right.
My challenge catalog is um, making people feel comfortable enough to be developed. This is not always easy. I think we are, as individuals, not always receptive to being told to do something different, especially if it's something we've done for years and years, and we don't want to change our approach. And a teacher trainer tends to come in with maybe a fresh idea, or even sometimes a completely different idea, and may suggest that you apply this. And your challenge as a trainer will be that this will result in some resistance at times.
Right. And when we talk about challenges, what do you think are the key responsibilities of a teacher trainer?
That's an interesting question because it depends on how much experience the individuals have. In some cases, you are a gatekeeper to the profession.
Right.
There will be people who have no teaching experience and will come in open to any ideas that you have. And a lot of people will come with some idea of how it should be done. And they, as I said, may not always want to listen to your version of things. As a teacher trainer, we always face this challenge. What else?
Arooj, what do you think?
Yeah, being a teacher trainer, the very first task at hand you have is the training need analysis. First, it's not only about, having certain type of courses that you have, in your basket, and then you can, you can just offer it to the different teachers. So it's like you need to see what are their needs, because addressing their needs is the very first thing being a teacher trainer, that what are they lacking on and how can you help develop that particular skill or particular strategy. So that's one part. Secondly, just like Gerald mentioned earlier, that we have like three set of teachers. We have novice teachers, we have experienced teachers who've been in the field for like 10-15 years, and then we have seasoned teachers as well. When it comes to training novice teachers, it becomes a little hard for us to make them understand that why these trainings are essential, being a professional teacher. And then for seasoned teacher, it may not be that difficult for them to convince, but when it comes to unlearning and relearning new things, it becomes a challenge in hand. So designing courses according to their needs, that's one of the responsibility they have. Then they have to observe, monitor them, coach them. You need to develop the course, and not only do that, and that's the first step is training need analysis. Second is the development of the course. Third is the conduction of the course and how you're conducting it. That's another step. And after that, the impact analysis of that particular course is also quite tiring at times, because it requires a lot of resource, time, and then a lot. It's a pretty complex procedure.
I
So that's
understand.
another factor.
So talking about the impact, what do you guys really think that what is the impact of teacher trainers on the quality of education, generally speaking?
Yeah, I think it has potential to enhance the learning outcomes of students. The education system is not an easy puzzle to crack, because very often our training should be in line with the education system, and that presents in itself major challenges, because a large chunk of education is geared towards exams, the syllabus and curriculum, as we've discussed before in other ed talks. So that's definitely a big challenge to face.
So I will carry that thought forward, as Gerald said that examinations pose a big challenge. So I, from my own experience, remember once I was training some government sector teachers, and we were emphasizing on the fact how we should discourage rote learning. And some of the, and well, most of the teachers were of the view that at the end of the day, it's the exams that matter. And even if we talk about O levels and A levels, a lot of students are just interested in doing past paper sessions, and a lot of them go from, because they fundamentally, not everybody gets the privilege of being in, those high-end schools where they can learn things the way, uh, is more appropriate. But so we have teachers where they only need results, and it's pretty understandable that this is the washback effect of the assessments. So how do you think we can manage that? How do you think, as teacher trainers, we can get them to understand that yes, the students are studying for the exams, the parents are looking for the exam results, and everybody needs the results to be good and A's and A stars, especially because we live in a country where if you don't have an A star, you're, God forbid, it seems like you've failed. So, how do you think we can train our teachers to understand this and how to go about it? How can they tackle that?
That's a great question. I think patience. I don't think we can change things very rapidly.
Of course.
I don't think we can change things, period. I think that we can make a difference by showing that there are many different motivation sources for students. If it's just exams so they get through to the next stages of life, I think we have to help them. I don't think we can change that. But then again, there are also genuine communicative advantages. We can motivate them to look ahead at their careers and the kind of skills they will be actually using once these exams have been done. If you like, the real language skills rather than the rote learning and the methods for exam survival. And I think the key word really is motivation. We need to give them a reason to continue learning and to look ahead at some advantages that they will encounter.
Arooj.
Absolutely. You see, at the end of the day, what are we looking at? The, student learning outcomes. And the best way to assess student learning outcomes are their results. So you see, the teacher training has a great impact, the kind of results they're going to achieve at the end of the day. So you see, if you're not an effective teacher right from the beginning, let's say, we have like different levels. We have early years, we have primary levels, then we have middle years, and then we have, IGCSE or GCSE. So, these are the different areas. So if you are not focusing on the kids right from the beginning, and if we are talking about, achieving the learning outcomes, who has the huge impact on the learners? The one who is standing in the classroom, the teacher. If the teacher is not trained herself or himself and doesn't know how to, engage them in meaningful manner, where they do not take learning passively, rather actively, so, their learning outcomes, the result, they're never going to get it. So that's one step. When it comes to OA levels or IGCSE or GCSE, you see, we have subject-specific trainings where they learn how to attempt a paper as well, because that is also a technique which is to be acquired, and there's specific trainings for teachers for those, that if it's a history paper, if it's an English paper, what is the question, how do you need to read that question, and what is required for you to attempt it, and what is not needed over there. So these are very technical trainings, and they are part of teacher training. It's not there's no way you can exclude them. So if the teacher is not trained and she's in the classroom, there's no way she can yield good results. So it's very, very important for teachers to, become trained. And I think so that's a continuous process. It should never stop.
So
Yeah,
nowadays
I
there's
absolutely.
go ahead, please, Gerald.
No, it's okay.
So nowadays there's a lot of emphasis on teacher training, and I think when I started, not only as a teacher but as a teacher trainer, uh, because that was a couple of years after I started as a teacher, there wasn't much going on in terms of teacher training, and there were teachers, but a lot of them were just teachers by accident, and teaching was, and I can say a lot of times now even um is not a career option for a lot of people, sadly. So what do you think when teachers, and when we see these teachers who are not there as they who are not teachers by choice, what do you think? How can we mainly design or teacher training sessions? How do you believe we can? Uh, how do you think we can, let's say, implement and design effective training programs for the teachers who are not even interested in being teachers and have ended up being teachers because maybe they didn't have any other career options, maybe they wanted to earn some bread and butter for their family and they were out of options, or well, a lot of times I didn't have anything to do, so I thought let's just go to this XYZ school and be a teacher. That's easy. So what do you think? How can we implement, how can we design training sessions and implement them effectively?
I think the solution is the same as, by the way, with less motivated students, and that is to
Right.
create some sort of motivation within the course, choosing topics of interest, and encouraging a lot of peer work, a lot of student learner-centered activities, simulating real classroom situations in your class time, uh, maybe igniting some enthusiasm to experiment. That would be lovely. The situations that you've outlined are dire. I mean, people who've been forced by financial circumstances to become teachers, a job they never wanted to have. Oh dear, that
Hmm.
really is hard. But all we can try and do is make this job look as interesting as it is and give them the chances to be maybe themselves a little bit in the classroom and not molded into
Mhm.
sticking to a certain style of teaching. Difficult stuff if they're working with the system, but nevertheless, I think that's the only way to go.
Arooj.
Absolutely. So you see, like you said, there are teachers that are teachers by chance, not by choice. So I'm one of them. I despise teaching because I come from a family of educators. My mother was a teacher, and then my grandmother, and then, my aunt, whatnot. So I was like, I never wanted to take up this profession because I never aspired to be a teacher. So, we need to take steps where teachers are celebrated as teachers. They are identified, or they are empowered, or they are recognized in such a way that they are playing a very important, crucial role in terms of transforming the society, that they are. Because you see, when you are dealing with young learners or even adult learners, there is a huge impact which is on the society. So we need to celebrate them as a society. So that's one thing. Secondly, in Pakistan, unfortunately, we do not have, a compulsion of having a teaching license before becoming a teacher. So, anybody can take this up just like that. So that, I believe, has to be reinforced from the government level. that every teacher, whosoever steps into this, profession, has to have a teaching license. It's imperative, because you see, you can't really play with these young people's life. So a lot of initiatives have been taken at a private school level, where they're training teachers as soon as they enter this profession. They train them, they make them understand who they are and what is their role, what in terms of shaping this society, or whatever the circle of influence they have, however little it may be. So that is another area. And then offering them uh, free teacher training sessions, maybe bite-sized sessions, to make them understand what teaching is. That can, ignite their motivation, that why do they need to take up these courses, what is the reason behind it, and how, it can make them better practitioners.
So, you talked about policies, and it might be cruel to bring up one, but I sometimes believe, and I would ask you, what do you think, and how is the situation in the UK and other places? Um, no matter how much you train a teacher, I see these schools, they have really great administration, trained administrators, educators, and they have this vision of educating people. And then they hire teachers, and they are so underpaid that they lose their motivation. If you're not getting something that's worth your time, and you're struggling financially, you're not at ease, and you're still struggling even after, an 8-hour job where you take home the papers and assignments and everything, and you're still not paid enough, and you're still struggling, and your mind is not at peace. How do you really think you can be a good teacher?
That's the million-dollar
So
question.
how do you motivate them? And then how many places, Gerald, have you seen teachers being one of those, teaching being one of those professions that's very underpaid?
It's very underpaid in many situations. The UK is no different. It varies actually hugely from school to school, to be honest. It's a lot of work. I think a lot of teachers get burned out and they have to escape to do something different. Going back, by the way, to your fundamental question about how do you deal with unmotivated teachers, I think one thing worth remembering is that teaching is a fantastic springboard to anything,
Absolutely.
because what you're developing as you grind your way through the day is people skills, organization, classroom management skills, and this you can turn 1,000 different ways, maybe even creating for yourself opportunities for jobs you didn't think you could do previously. So if that isn't a motivating element, I don't know what is.
And it is highly rewarding as well, being a teacher yourself,
Oh
when you
yeah,
see your students flourishing, in their life. That is such a beautiful feeling to have at the end of the day, and
yeah.
the kind of sense of achievement and you feel, that's tremendous. And not to forget the role you have, in terms of shaping the society. I understand that it is underpaid and a lot of measures needs to be taken. And there's a lot of burnout as well, because it is one factor. There is no way we can ignore it. There is a lot going on in a school. They're juggling through different tasks, from one way to another, one class to another class, dealing with different type of learners, because every learner has a different need as well. So you have like 25 number of students in your class with 25 different types of needs. So understanding them, and then, catering to their needs, not only their academic needs as well as their personal needs. It can be and it is a very tiring job, but at the end of the day, it's extremely rewarding, because the fruit you get is amazing.
So,
Yeah, that's
sorry,
no, it's
how
okay.
important do
I
you
was just
Sorry. How important do you think, when we're motivating teachers, and so as a practice, how important do you think it is to incorporate practical hands-on experiences and real-world applications during your training sessions?
I think it's totally important to do that, to simulate, to do mini, I don't know, mini role plays, to really actively be engaged in the methodology, if you like, in classes. Two things to say here. One is obviously the obvious, perhaps obvious, idea of incorporating this into your training, but also the training session itself as a model of appropriate teaching methodologies, and not a lecture about student-centered teaching, if you know what I mean. So really modeling your methods and techniques and allowing this to be simulated in the classroom as it were would be in a real class is, well, it's quite a skill actually, but also very important.
Aruj.
Absolutely. You see, having diverse formats and engaging hands-on session, your own training session is like a role model for them to implement the same strategies in their classrooms as well. So that's very, very important that you have hands-on experiences so that they also understand what hands-on experience is and how it's going to impact the learning of the students as well. So yes, spot on,
So,
Gerald.
talking about the training methods, a lot of our participants agreed that practical hands-on training sessions and interactive workshops and seminars are a very good idea for training methods. About 33% of them have also mentioned peer mentoring and collaborative learning. So, how do you think we can add peer mentoring into our training sessions?
I think the idea of sharing experiences, life experience, and actual physical teaching experience, and exploring ways, and the many different ways, is an essential part of any kind of workshoppy kind of teacher training session. And acknowledging, as I think I said right at the beginning, that there are many methods to explore, and they all kind of work. And just, I think an important thing as a teacher trainer is to accept these different ideas, and that they all lead to a similar, or can lead to a similar end result.
Absolutely. And teaching landscape is continuously evolving. Now we have stepped into technology as well, specifically post-COVID. So that's another shift that has taken place after COVID. So it's very important that you're incorporating all of these strategies in your own training session so that, at the end of the day, teachers are well equipped in their classrooms to replicate the same, uh, in the classrooms. And as far as peer learning and collaboration is concerned, that is, I think so. Another thing, it's important factor to look into. Reason being, you see, you learn a lot when you are discussing with one another. So it's like there is no one right way when it comes to teaching. You
Got it.
see, when we are dealing with multiple students, and they have diverse needs as well, so there is no one right approach to go by about it. So it's always best to sit down, discuss. We need to create those learning communities within schools, outside schools, wherever you are, so that you are continuously discussing new strategies, new pedagogies, and how can you use them and help them to realize the learning outcomes in the classroom. So that's very, very important. Peer learning
Absolutely.
and collaboration is a must.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of our participants have also said that the most important skill for a teacher training would be empathy and supportiveness. So, how do you think we can, as teacher trainers, show empathy and supportiveness in our sessions?
I keep starting, but
Aruj,
I
you
will.
start
I
this
don't
time.
mind.
Okay, Aruj, you go first.
So you see, if you're not empathetic yourself, you see, it has a ripple effect. So if you're a teacher trainer and my, trainees, they're my learners. If I'm not empathetic towards their need, there's no way I'm going to understand what are they looking for and how can I keep them motivated. So that's one thing. So I'm like a role model being a teacher trainer. So if I'm not empathetic myself, how I'm going to understand their needs. And same goes with the teachers as well when they go back to their classrooms and they're not empathetic to the needs of learners. How are they going to implement those strategies? You see, you can't have that black and white overview about students, that this is a good student, this is a bad student. No, it doesn't work that way. They all come from different backgrounds, and if you do not see, there's one thing which is called human connection. What is that human connection? The moment you empathize with one another, you form that comfort level with one another, where you sort of have that power to influence the other person. So if you lack that major component of creating a human connection, then I'm sorry, you're nowhere. You're back. I don't know, I feel unfortunate or fortunate that I wasn't taught by trained teachers, but that's what we used to fear our teachers. And we didn't learn because we wanted to learn. We learned probably because we wanted to get grades. We were fearful of our teachers and our parents that we need to get some grades. So you see, that empathy, the factor of empathy is crucial. And I don't think so there can be a teacher in the market or in this profession who is not empathetic at all. So it's the teacher is gonna fail right away.
Jared.
Yeah, I totally agree. Totally agree. Now, one of the most important skills as a teacher trainer is feedback. It's where the most confrontation takes place, where the most empathy needs to be displayed, if you like. And I think fundamentally, trainees are generally feeling quite nervous about the tutor, this authority figure who's the judge and who's just written some feedback about your lesson and either liked it or didn't like it. And I think we need to, what we need to inspire, if we can, and it's not easy, but it's confidence. So the confidence to express their opinions, to talk about candidly about how they felt about their lessons without feeling this negative judgment vibe, is definitely a skill. And if you have it as a teacher trainer, you are onto a winning streak, because your trainees will really appreciate the fact that you create a kind of inclusive environment in which things can be discussed openly. And by the way, I never refer to something that went wrong in a negative way. So I think all learning experiences are positive. You create that atmosphere of, yeah, it didn't go as well as you wanted, but hey, this is what we can do next time. Let's come up with some ideas for next lesson. There's projecting it all forward. The whole atmosphere becomes more positive. There's less being pushed into a corner, psychologically dismantled. It's definitely not the way to go. And if you say to people, well, look, you should have done this, it's going to make them feel worse about something that didn't go quite as well. The only other thing I want to add to this important topic is team spirit. I create an atmosphere where we are all in this together. So I happen to be your trainer, but we are all dealing as a group of people, the teachers and me, the tutor. We're all dealing with our students. We're trying to give them the best learning experience. Let's look at ways in which we can improve this. And hey, it doesn't matter. You're here to make mistakes. It's okay. It's the kind of atmosphere we encourage teachers to apply to their students. Experimentation is good. If you crush it with some negative comments, they're not going to give you any more comments on. They're not going to contribute. So it's a kind of a team effort.
On that thought, I just when I was the first ever teacher training that I attended, it was my first teaching practice, assessed teaching practice. And the my trainer slash assessor, she said I was too teachery, right? And then moving on, you know, you kind of understand that. And then a lot of times now I've seen when people are talking about themselves being teachers, they say we're facilitators and and so on and so forth. Do you think that somehow the word teacher is starting to have a negative connotation?
It certainly brings up a very conservative image of being in a formal situation where you can almost guarantee you're going to be criticized.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
So you see, initially the word lecture was associated with teaching, but now it has a very negative connotation to it. We no longer want to use it. The same goes for the teacher as well. They're no more facilitators, rather they're enablers.
right.
So, you know,
You know, we have
so
all of these different terms that we would
yes.
like to use rather than saying I'm a teacher. I'm like, okay,
Why
okay.
not? Why not? You see, we should wear it as a badge. We have doctors, we
Yeah,
have engineers, we have um, pilots. They wear their titles as a badge. So why can't we wear this as a badge? You see, this is where we lack. Uh, we do not have that sort of celebration or that empowerment to this profession, that not many people want to take it up, and if they do,
yeah,
they don't take it very seriously, so they're just in for, like, for some extra cash maybe, or to kill some time, or they're there not for permanently, they're there for temporarily, for couple of months or years maybe, then they switch as soon as they land a better opportunity or something. You see, I think so it's time for all the educators to take this stance that it is a title that we need to wear it with pride.
absolutely.
Nice one.
So good one, very good one. So moving on to the assessment part that we were talking about. So how do you think we once we've delivered a great teacher training and we've added some really good innovative training methods, how do we assess, how do we evaluate the effectiveness of our teacher training program?
So there are like multiple methods. You can have a pre-training survey, and then you can have a post-training survey as well. That can give you a clearer picture. And with that, we can have ongoing assessments going on, where you can actually gauge the effectiveness of your training. And then there's another one, which is I mentioned earlier, that's impact analysis. That's very crucial. We generally deliver trainings, but we do not measure the impact of that training on the students. That's one gap that we are facing a lot. That gap, impact analysis has to be done. We need to see that how effective the training was, and how it has had a positive impact on the learning outcomes of the learners. So that's very, very important. We can have multiple classroom observations to see, how, have they acquired that knowledge, and how are they implementing it. So there are like multiple ways you can assess the effectiveness of the training.
So Sandy mentioned looking into the students if they're engaged, and also she's saying that surveys or reflective tasks during the course, both for trainees and students. And so Gerald, what do you think? Can you elaborate on uh, what Sandy has said about reflective tasks for trainees and students?
Well, absolutely. I think it's a great idea. I think reflection has many layers there. We get the immediate feedback, i.e., at the end of the course or maybe halfway through the course. At this point, the experience is still raw, and I mean that in the positive and negative sense. They've just been through the grinder, the mill, or they may feel like that. But how effective was the training is the real question, as you said. And the answer to that is ask them in 6 months to a year. In other words, this ongoing process of feedback where they've had time to put and implement some of these ideas, put them into practice, and then realize either they work or they don't work for them. But that's the most useful feedback, and certainly the most useful feedback I've had, rather than, oh, we didn't enjoy the process. Yeah, but how effective was it? How effective was the training? To what extent did that maybe change the way you did things? Or how did your students react differently to your lessons over a period of time as you changed your ideas? This is great. This is the most enjoyable aspect of feedback from my point of view.
Um, okay, so Sandy says that they used to send letters to trainees 6 months after they finished the course and also included a letter they wrote to themselves. That is a very interesting feedback idea. And I think that that's well, even if we're not if we want to add some technology into it, um, it can be a very interesting um, feedback loop that can be incorporated.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
And
One of
keeping a
the things
reflective journal is another way of,
yeah,
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. So like
and
we
this,
always tell our teachers to be reflective, I think as teacher trainers, we need to be reflective as well. Yes, Gerald?
of course, we need to be reflective unless we are contradicting ourselves and we're not learning, we've stopped learning. We need that feedback to keep us sharp and to keep us changing our ideas and adapting. One of the things about self, one useful immediate feedback strategy is for them to write at the beginning of a course, what are your expectations of this course? And then looking at that afterwards to see if those have been achieved.
Mm,
But I still maintain that the most useful actual feedback about the training is 6 months down the line.
absolutely. And because we have limited time left, so before we end today's session, I would want to know what opportunities for ongoing learning and growth do we have for teacher trainers?
Well, the only thing I can immediately say is that there is a publication called The Teacher Trainer, which you can read, and they publish articles about teacher training. It's a journal, and you can subscribe to it as fairly readily available, and it's always interesting. Really, as an avenue for development, you are rather limited in your source of material. The only thing you can do is join some of these special interest groups that are around to discuss various problems, and usually discuss local problems most usefully.
Arooj?
Okay, so there are like multiple opportunities available. Like I mentioned earlier, there are paid programs, there are very advanced certifications available. And for suppose if you have money constraints, you can get engaged with, free webinars. There are plenty of them, and they're, available on multiple platforms. There's like Future Learn website, there are free courses, then there's edX, which you can, subscribe to. Then, there's Cambridge you can subscribe to. There are multiple tools, free resources are available where you can actually get engaged and get knowledge about it. And then, of course, engaging in advanced workshops and certifications always a good idea, because you see, when you really invest in something, that's my personal belief, is when you really invest in something, you work towards it. When something comes to you for free, you take it for granted at the end of the day, so you don't really pay attention to it. So it's best to invest, and I think so the best investment one can ever have is on their own learning, be it a student, be it a teacher, or any profession. That is the best um, investment one can make on themselves, is developing themselves.
And do you think networking and collaborating with other education professionals is also a very good idea? If so, how can we do that?
Absolutely, that's where learning communities come in. That's another emerging idea which is out there, and this is you learn a lot when you engage in discussion. Just like this is a discussion going on, and we are learning from one another. So you see, yes, absolutely.
One of the challenges with that is time. We're all busy. We know the teacher training is a very involving career or profession to have, and finding the time and the time different with all the time differences and so on to actually meet people from other training situations is challenging, I'm afraid. But of course, everything that Arooj has said is absolutely valid. It's a wonderful opportunity if you can get it, definitely.
And also, I think we should keep up to date with the latest research and trends in education because we have such a rapid change in our society nowadays, and because that changes, we need to keep ourselves updated as well. And the ways of education are also going to change. A lot of people say that the way our teachers used to teach us, we turned out mighty fine, but now why can't we implement that on the students now? Because, well, times have changed, people have changed, children have changed.
Yes.
On that, we have a question from one of our participants, Sobia Mansoor. She's asking, how can we train teachers to adapt themselves to changing needs of teenagers nowadays?
Yeah. You know, if you work with teenagers, you get my hero award immediately. It's definitely a case of reciprocal learning because you're learning about them as different people from you to you. You're coming in with your teaching methods, and then there's a big clash in the middle, a turbulent clash where you try to adapt all this knowledge into something that will work in line with the curriculum and exams they have to take and so on. So not very easy to deal with, I have to say.
Arooj,
So
you deal
becoming
with
empathetic,
teenagers
just
all the
like you.
time, I suppose.
Yeah, becoming empathetic, that's one thing. You see, I have dealt with teenagers. If you listen to them, they will listen back to you. So that's one thing you need to show is empathy. And then again, addressing their needs, where they're coming from. You see, if we stay aloof, that, we do not want to listen to whatever their evolving needs are and what era they've been born in, there is no way we can address their challenges. So we need to, look for multiple avenues that how it can we address them. Psychology plays a major part when it comes to education. You see, so there are like multiple courses that are available online or face to face, webinars, seminars, and whatnot. And there's like a lot of literature written on it as well. Delve into it. You need to become that lifelong learner yourself. If you are a teacher, you need to be self-disciplined, self-regulated, and you need to be empowered enough to be able to look up what are you struggling with, find ways to address, whatever the challenges are. So these are the skills that are needed. These are the learning skills that are needed for the teachers, that they should be self-sufficient when it comes to, facing a challenge.
Absolutely. And what Sandy says, simply ask them. They're happy to tell you what they need and what they want, and they're very forthcoming about it.
Absolutely.
And I think the better rapport you have with your teenagers, the better it gets. And as Gerald said, that is the most challenging age group that anyone can teach, especially in today's world. So that it was a very good, really good question. So, any final thoughts before we leave the session today?
I think there's a big question now with methodologies about the role of the teacher and the role of the teacher trainer as a startup to this process. there are a lot of changes. There's a lot of empowerment methodology where students are increasingly responsible for their outcomes and the structure of classrooms. And I think these methodologies are very interesting to pursue and to develop. And I'm talking locally about developing it to your specifications to life and culture in Pakistan. It's going to be different everywhere. Also, that the only other thing I wanted to add was, to what extent are we real as teachers and indeed as teacher trainers? We come in with this authority role. It's a brief. It's expected of us. What happens if we suddenly come in and we're actually friendly and nice? Unexpectedly so for many trainees. What happens if you are a little bit like yourself, like your real self, and not like an authority figure, and not kind of pumped up full of, teacher characteristics?
Absolutely.
I often wonder about that, and that experimentation is ongoing, and I encourage you to do the same.
Arooj.
Yeah, I totally agree with Gerald on this. I think so. Be yourself. That's the first thing and the best thing you can do. Don't be authoritative. Just come down to the level, be their friend, listen to them, understand them, form that connection with them. And there you go. You have unlocked, unlimited, uh, you know, uh, opportunities with them where you can explore, you can experiment, and they definitely need to have that sort of leverage, or sort of that connection with the teacher, that they can be wrong and yet they won't be mocked. So that's very important. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay. This is the first learning step. So I think so that's the best advice one can ever have. Be yourself and give them that space where they can make mistakes and learn from their own mistakes.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said for it. I mean, humiliation, we don't want it, right? I don't want it. I don't appreciate it too much, but I've learned a lot from being humiliated. I think we have to remember that a lot of these traditional methods over the last thousands of years have produced some pretty good results in people and developing character and so on. So I just leave that hanging. It's not a judgment of how things should be. But as Sandy just said earlier in a message, they're expecting us to be mean a lot of the time in reality. What happens? That was my question earlier.
So
What happens if
Sandy's
you
question badge is asking, is there not another way other than humiliation?
Absolutely, yeah, of course, yeah. Absolutely. To accept the suggestions and then build on it. Say yes, okay, fine. And now, if you wanted to develop that into something slightly different, like what would you do? What's an alternative? Not dismissing something as rubbish. That would be terrible.
Right,
Yes.
absolutely. So be yourself, be real, honor the people you're there
Honor the
to
people.
train
Totally
and
agree.
teach. Absolutely, I agree with you. And yes, Rabia, we learn from our mistakes. Absolutely. So, all these things that you're saying are right. Just before we close this session, we have not answered a question that was posed earlier. That how does gender play a role in training teachers? Her faculty includes more male staff than female, and they often don't go along with the teenagers. What would be a good strategy to deal with these problems? That would be the last question for the session. If you have any more questions, please feel free to inbox us and we'll try to answer them in our upcoming session. Yes.
I don't know what to say there, except to hope that over a period of time that they come to realize that any or both genders are all capable of influencing and creating a very positive learning outcome. that is also a very strongly cultural question. In Britain, traditionally, there were more women than men in teaching. It's still the case. There have been some statistics recently that suggest more men are coming in than they used to be the case. In Pakistan, you're going to have to tell me more about what the realities are. But whatever, I wish upon everybody input from both genders.
We have more female teachers than male teachers in Pakistan as
Absolutely,
well.
there are more female teachers than male, but I will tell you this, that lately I have started to increase. So because we're have these teacher trainings quite often, and we're a teacher training institute, a training institute, and a part of our trainings include teacher trainings. A lot of male teachers are now coming into the field, which is a good thing. I
Particularly in
appreciate
higher
that.
education, male
Absolutely.
teachers are
And
actually.
Okay.
so let's see a few years down the line, you never know.
We'll have another EdTalks and compare.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, Okay, so thank you so much as we come to the end of today's session on empowering teacher trainers and talking about the strategies for effective teacher training. Let's take a moment to reflect on what we've discussed. We've talked about the critical role teacher trainers play in shaping the quality of education. We examined some best practices for designing impactful training programs. We've explored some innovative methods. We've talked about the importance of assessment and feedback in driving continuous improvement. So, lastly, we emphasize the need for ongoing professional development to empower teacher trainers themselves. So, I hope these insights have sparked ideas that you can implement in your own contexts to enhance teacher training practices. I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to our distinguished speakers, Gerald Bagge and Arooj Fatima Raza, and contributors, Sandy and Rabia and Sobia, for sharing their expertise and perspectives. Your insights have been invaluable in enriching our understanding of effective teacher training strategies. I also want to thank each of you for your active participation and engagement. Your questions, reflections, contributions have made this a truly collaborative and meaningful session. Thank you so much
Thank you.
again. And
Thank you.
let's hope that together we can make a significant impact on education community by
We are
empowering
the change
learners
makers.
to be agents of change. Thank you so much. And I hope to see you guys next month with a next episode. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.